The concept of wealth is often misunderstood as a pile of paper or a digital number in a bank account. But in reality, money is nothing more than a bridge across time and space. To truly master your finances, you must first understand that you are not just managing currency. You are managing the stored energy of your past labor and the potential freedom of your future self. Thousands of years ago, before the first coin was ever minted, humanity relied on trust and physical bartering. If you had grain and needed shoes, you had to find someone who not only had shoes but also happened to be hungry for grain. This was the double coincidence of wants, a friction that slowed down the progress of civilization. The invention of money solved this by creating a universal language of value, a way to freeze your hard work today so you could thaw it out and use it 10 years from now. As civilizations grew, so did the complexity of how we store that value. We moved from seashells and salt to precious metals, and eventually to the sophisticated digital ledgers we use today. But throughout this entire journey, one thing has remained constant: the battle against erosion. In the physical world, buildings crumble and wood rots. In the financial world, wealth erodes through inflation and poor decision-making. If you leave your money sitting still, it doesn't just stay there. It slowly evaporates as the cost of living rises around it. This is the first great hurdle of financial literacy. You cannot simply save your way to true freedom in a world where the purchasing power of your currency is designed to decrease over time. You must learn to make your money move faster than the rate of its decay. This brings us to the engine of the modern economy, the concept of compound interest. It is often called the eighth wonder of the world, not because it is magical, but because it is counterintuitive to the human brain. We are wired to think linearly. If we take 10 steps, we expect to be 10 feet away. But wealth grows exponentially. In the beginning, the progress is so slow it feels invisible. You save, you invest, and for years, it feels like nothing is happening. This is the valley of disappointment, where most people give up. They see their accounts growing by small increments and decide it isn't worth the sacrifice. However, if you have the discipline to stay the course, you eventually reach a tipping point where the interest earned on your money begins to earn its own interest. This is the moment when your capital starts working harder than you do. To reach that point, however, you must navigate the minefield of risk and volatility. Many people confuse the two, but they are very different animals. Volatility is the upward and downward bounce of the market. It is the price you pay for admission to long-term gains. Risk, on the other hand, is the permanent loss of capital. If you panic during a market downturn and sell your assets at the bottom, you have turned temporary volatility into permanent risk. The most successful investors are not necessarily the ones with the highest IQs or the most complex spreadsheets. They are the ones with the highest level of emotional control. They understand that the market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Beyond the numbers, we must look at the psychology of spending. We live in an era of hyper-consumption, where every screen you look at is designed to convince you that you are one purchase away from happiness. This is the hedonic treadmill. You work hard to buy a better car, and for a week, you feel a rush of dopamine. But soon, that car becomes your new baseline, and you start looking for the next upgrade. This cycle is the greatest enemy of wealth. True wealth is what you don't see. It's the cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, and the first-class tickets not booked. It is the invisible shield of security that allows you to say no to a job you hate, or a situation that compromises your values. The strategy for building this shield is not a secret, yet it is rarely followed because it requires something our culture lacks: delayed gratification. It starts with the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap is your seed capital. Every dollar in that gap is a money soldier that you can send out to fight for your freedom. If you spend every cent you make, you are essentially a high-functioning slave to your own lifestyle. But if you can widen that gap and direct it toward productive assets, businesses, real estate, or diversified stocks, you are buying back your time, hour by hour. As you build this momentum, you must also understand the role of debt. Debt is a double-edged sword that can either accelerate your journey or cut it short. High-interest consumer debt is a tax on your future self, a way of pulling enjoyment forward while pushing the pain into the years ahead. It is a weight around your neck that prevents you from taking risks. Conversely, strategic debt can be used to acquire assets that pay for themselves. The difference lies in whether the debt is feeding you or eating you. In the final analysis, The goal of finance isn't to be the richest person in the cemetery. The goal is to reach a state of enough. Enough is the point where your passive income covers your desired lifestyle, and your time becomes entirely your own. At this stage, you stop working for money and money starts working for you. You realize that the most valuable currency isn't the dollar, the euro, or the Bitcoin. It is the ability to wake up every morning and decide exactly how you want to spend your day. That is the ultimate return on investment. It requires a lifetime of learning, a decade of discipline, and the courage to ignore the noise of the crowd. But for those who master these principles, the reward is a level of freedom that no paycheck can ever provide.